Hi, today in Emerging EdTech, I published the second article in a couple of months about the One World Schoolhouse, Education Reimagined, which is a book written by Salman Khan of the Khan Academy. I love this book. I really think it should be required reading for educators everywhere. A couple of months ago, I wrote a little bit about some of what was shared in the introductory section of the book. The book is just absolutely rich with ideas and information that will that form the foundation of much of Sal Khan's philosophy about how we can leverage technology in the pursuit of making significant changes in our education model. But it's really important to emphasize that this is about the education model, and technology is simply a tool to facilitate some of the changes and implementation of concepts, in some cases, which have been very long-standing concepts. So I hope you'll pick up the book and check it out, and come out to the website and read more about the One World Schoolhouse, Education Reimagined by Sal Khan.
And here's a quick picture of the cover of the book. Now I'm reading the book in digital form, so this is a snapshot, a digital image of the cover of the book. And here we have the article out on Emerging EdTech that provides a written review of the book and discusses these themes that I want to discuss in this video review of the book. So first and foremost is the idea that we all learn at different rates and in different ways. And I think all educators are very cognizant of this fact, yet our educational system, because of this sort of mass production mode where people have to move through at relatively consistent rates, it just isn't designed to accommodate this fact. Here we have a quote directly from the book that I'm just going to go ahead and read that really focuses on this idea. So, you can standardize curricula, but you can't standardize learning. No two brains are the same. No two pathways through the infinitely subtle web of knowledge are the same. Even the most rigorous standardized tests demonstrate only an approximate grasp of a certain subset of ideas that each student understands in his or her own way. Personal responsibility for learning goes hand in hand with the recognition of the uniqueness of each learner. Now this is a good segue into another key theme in the book, which is that the best teaching and learning process or educational process is one that's going to encourage and enable students to take responsibility for their own learning. And it can be such a powerful idea when that is the case. And it's important to realize that a key goal of education is to prepare people for the workplace. And in the workplace, good employees are going to take responsibility for their success. If they're really going to thrive, they're going to take responsibility for what they have to do. They're going to figure out the next step. It's not going to be purely formulaic. And similarly, in education, the same thing holds. The more active of a stance a student can take towards their education, the better they're going to be positioned to succeed. And by taking approaches like the flipped classroom or online, putting learning content online so that it can be reviewed and repeatedly examined, and then supporting that with many of the robust tools that are made available through the Khan Academy's software, you then have a very self-directed learning environment that has adaptive tools and rewards and many constructs that really encourage the student to take responsibility for their own learning. And there's a great chapter called The Leap to a Real Classroom, in which Mr. Khan talks about the first time that the videos and the Khan Academy software was used in a structured application in a real classroom back in 2007. And this speaks to this idea of the power of self-directed learning. So there was a summer program out in the Bay Area called Peninsula Bridge that was geared towards motivated middle school kids from under-resourced schools. And one of the key takeaways from this whole exercise, in which the Khan Academy tools were a supplement to the standard curricula, were that while many kids, moved through the concepts easily, some didn't. Some got stuck on fundamentals. And this speaks to these gaps in knowledge that often happen in the traditional environment, where you have to kind of move ahead despite whether or not you're really ready. And one of the things that was particularly fascinating about this was that there was a group that was a little younger and assumed that they were going to struggle a little more, but instead they kind of plotted ahead and ultimately overcame those students who were started off at a higher level and were assumed that they were just going to really move ahead faster than everybody else, and it didn't happen. And it really goes to this issue of, if you give students the ability to learn on their own and the tools to learn on their own and the encouragement to do so, many of them can really go leaps and bounds beyond where they can go in the traditional classroom environment. Now, there are a lot more great examples in the book of this kind of thing, and this is probably a good point to mention, while it may be obvious that I can really only just scratch the surface of the richness of content and ideas and examples that are in this book to illustrate these themes and much more. So it's very much worth picking up a copy of this book and reading through it. The last theme from the book that I want to focus on, and there are plenty of more key points throughout the book, but the last one I want to focus on here is mastery learning. Now, the idea of mastery learning has been around a long time, first coined by Bloom back in the late 60s and early 70s, and the critics have cited rightfully that it takes a tremendous amount of effort on behalf of the teacher, and until recently it's been pretty impractical to be able to think about how do you manage a classroom where everybody's learning at a different pace. But the technology that's available, and part of what the Khan Academy can deliver, is the tool set, and not just the Khan Academy, but the instructional technologies that are available today with some planning and work can deliver a much higher functional ability to manage mastery learning, to manage different learners learning at their own pace. And it's also a key theme of very effectively delivered flipped classroom environments. So again, something really worth learning about and something illustrated further in the book. And it ties back to this idea of needing to fill in the gaps of learning, making sure that those are repaired so that you can build more effectively on learning, and as subjects evolve from one to the other, not having these things become major hurdles. So again, Sal Khan speaks to this so much more eloquently than I possibly could. And a big theme here is that it is not about the technology. Technology is just an enabler. It is about the underlying concepts and the things that, the serious conversation, the serious changes we need to really start to consider and implement and move towards in our educational environment if we're going to move away from the same construct that's been in place for a century or multiple centuries, and embrace 21st century tools and position our students, young or old, to really help to fill the upcoming gaps in the workplace that are existing in terms of skills requirements, and position them to ultimately succeed.